Three massive updates just changed the direction of the Chargers' offseason. One blockbuster offensive move. One defensive hire nobody saw coming. And if you care about where this team is headed in 2026, this matters more than you think. Before we dive in, if you love real Chargers breakdowns that go deeper than surface headlines, hit like, subscribe, and share this with another Bolts fan who needs to hear this. Let's get straight to it. We have three major updates today: the hiring of offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel, the shock defensive coordinator hire of Chris O'Leary, and what this all signals about Jim Harbaugh's long-term blueprint around Justin Herbert. First, the offensive side of the ball. The Chargers landed Mike McDaniel. Yes, that Mike McDaniel. The most sought-after offensive mind on the market this cycle. There were over 20 offensive coordinator changes across the league, and multiple franchises wanted him in the building. He reportedly sat through a mountain of interviews. Teams were lining up. And the Chargers got him. Why is that significant? Because one of the biggest narratives around Justin Herbert over the past few seasons has been inconsistency in offensive identity. Elite quarterback talent. Elite arm strength. High-level processing. But shifting philosophies, coordinator turnover, and stretches where the offense felt reactive instead of dictating terms. Now you pair Herbert with an offensive architect who has built top-tier efficiency systems before. There's one line floating around league circles that says everything: we've never seen Mike McDaniel work with a quarterback as talented as Justin Herbert. Think about that. McDaniel has coordinated offenses with limited quarterback ceilings. He's schemed around average arm strength. He's compensated for timing issues. He's elevated systems despite instability. And now he inherits a quarterback with prototype size, elite velocity, high football IQ, and the ability to stretch every blade of grass. So let me ask you this early on: if McDaniel could manufacture production without elite quarterback play, what happens when he finally gets one? That's not hype. That's schematic math. McDaniel's offenses are built on structure, motion, spacing, leverage manipulation, sequencing. They stress defensive rules. They force hesitation. When you combine that with Herbert's ability to drive the ball outside the numbers and attack vertically, the ceiling changes. But here's the real shift. This offense doesn't just need explosiveness. It needs sustainability. It needs to stay ahead of the chains. It needs to avoid those second and 10 and third and long situations that stall drives and expose protection. McDaniel's value isn't just creativity. It's efficiency. If the Chargers can consistently build 10-point leads by late third quarter instead of grinding through one-score games every week, the entire game script changes. Play calling changes. Defensive aggression changes. Clock management changes. Now, let's move to the second update. And this is the one that truly shocked people. Chris O'Leary is the new defensive coordinator. No media buildup. No rumor carousel. No insider hints. He wasn't the trendy name. He wasn't the recycled veteran. He wasn't the safe hire. And that's exactly why this matters. Across the league, defensive coordinator openings were filled mostly by predictable candidates. Familiar retreads. Established position coaches. Names you've heard before. The Chargers went in a different direction. O'Leary comes from the Ravens' defensive tree. The same schematic ecosystem that produced Mike Macdonald and Jesse Minter. That lineage has produced top-5 defensive outputs built on disguise, simulated pressures, pre-snap ambiguity, and post-snap rotation. The Chargers' defense over the past 2 years has been their glue. Even when the offense sputtered, the defense kept games within reach. There was a brief stretch last season where performance dipped, a 2 or 3 game window where execution slipped, but overall, this unit has been structurally sound. Hard to move the ball against. Disciplined in coverage. Forcing long drives. Shrinking time of possession. Making opponents earn everything. That style complements Herbert perfectly. You don't need shootouts. You need controlled games. Now here's what makes the O'Leary hire intriguing. Continuity of system language. When defensive terminology remains consistent, when core principles remain intact, player development accelerates. Young draft hits don't have to relearn structure. Communication errors decrease. Install periods are smoother. And here's the bigger picture: Jim Harbaugh has a history of identifying coaches before the league fully recognizes them. Remember Mike Macdonald? Harbaugh brought him into Michigan when few outside Baltimore circles knew him. The defense transformed almost immediately. That ripple effect elevated the entire program. Then Jesse Minter followed. Another under-the-radar hire. Another immediate impact. That defensive identity carried forward seamlessly. Now Harbaugh does it again with Chris O'Leary. This isn't random. This is pattern recognition. Harbaugh has made high-profile hires before. Some worked. Some didn't. But when he digs into developmental coaches, younger, detail-oriented, system-driven minds, the results have often been explosive. He understands football tradition. He values physicality. But he also adapts. He evolves. He's not locked into a fossilized playbook. That duality is what makes him dangerous. So let's zoom out. Update 1. You secure one of the most in-demand offensive coordinators and pair him with Justin Herbert. Update 2. You quietly lock in a defensive coordinator from one of the league's most respected schematic trees. Update 3. Organizational alignment. For the first time in a while, this feels cohesive. Question of the day: which hire impacts the Chargers more in 2026, Mike McDaniel on offense or Chris O'Leary on defense? Drop your answer in the comments and explain why. Because here's the truth. The Chargers don't need chaos. They need synchronization. Imagine this scenario: the offense sustains drives early. Builds a 10-point cushion. Forces opponents into predictable passing situations. O'Leary's defense unleashes disguised pressures and simulated blitz packages. Third and long becomes a trap instead of a survival test. Now Herbert isn't playing from behind. He's closing. That changes psychology. It changes sideline energy. It changes how opponents prepare all week. There's also a timing element to this offseason. We're entering that stretch of the calendar where the NFL machine spins back up. Combine interviews, press conferences, front office transparency. The quiet lull is ending. And expectations are rising. As an established contender, the Chargers aren't sneaking up on anyone anymore. Primetime divisional games against the Kansas City Chiefs and Denver Broncos are inevitable. National windows. Spotlight pressure. The question becomes, are these coaching moves built for January football? Because that's the bar now. Justin Herbert isn't evaluated on potential anymore. He's evaluated on postseason trajectory. Mike McDaniel's challenge will be situational mastery. Red zone efficiency. 2-minute execution. Third down conversion rate. Chris O'Leary's challenge will be adaptability. Can the defense morph weekly? Can it counter elite quarterbacks? Can it hold up if injuries test depth? And here's what excites me most: both hires suggest forward thinking. Not safe. Not reactive. Intentional. This organization looked at the league landscape, 20-plus coordinator changes, defensive turnover everywhere, and instead of blending into the cycle, they targeted upside. There's risk in that. But there's also reward. The Chargers' formula over the past 2 seasons has been simple: defensive stability, Herbert magic late, narrow margins. Now imagine expanding that margin. Imagine fewer coin flip endings. Imagine walking into the fourth quarter with leverage instead of desperation. That's what these